This is a much awaited video of my birth story. Today I'll talk about it in details. So here's what happened. I was due on 7th of October 2023 and my last sonography scan was scheduled on 22nd of September. My doctor had given me two options, whether to go with elective C section or a normal delivery. In case of elective C, she suggested that we schedule it on the end of September, like 29th or 30th. So me and my husband discussed and we decided that we will take the final decision based on the result of the last scan. That was my 37th week going on. So other than a few frequent Braxton Hicks, nothing was uh, unusual in that 37th week. But I was not alarmed because I knew that Braxton Hicks is quite common. Uh, so I felt quite fine apart from that. Just the normal ninth month uh, pregnancy troubles. That was it. So my last scan was scheduled on 22nd of September, which was a Friday. We were pretty excited because we would see the baby on screen for the last time before my delivery. We reached there, we had the scan, and there was a shocker. The scan results were not quite as expected, and my doctor said that the growth of my baby was stopped after the 35th week, and the baby was in trouble inside. It's being suffocated, so it's best that we do an emergency C-section as soon as possible. So I went completely blank. My husband went completely blank, and this was not expected at all. I asked her maximum how much I can stretch because my parents were not in town, and I trust my father a lot because he's a doctor, and I was so scared. It was the first time. She said maximum 3 days, I can give you maximum 3 days, but my suggestion would be get admitted as soon as possible, if possible the next day itself. I called my mom. There were some panicky back and forth. My dad was in a very important meeting. He could not be reached at that time. So after almost an hour or so, we came to a decision that they would be able to come the day after tomorrow. That is the Sunday. And then they suggested that you go and get admitted. We will be on the call the whole time, but don't take the risk. But I was not prepared mentally to do this alone without my parents in town, alone with only my husband. We both are very naive in all this, so I was not ready. So I took a huge risk and I made up my mind that they will come and I will get admitted on 25th itself, it's the Monday. So yeah, then I was given a few injections on that day. I was asked to stop few medicines which had to be stopped like 5 days before the surgery, but since it was an emergency, we had to stop it 2 days prior. The next 2 days passed just like that. Don't know how the next 2 days passed. On the next day, I was called again to the hospital to give the second dose of that injection, and my parents arrived. The whole day went in planning and packing and giving them a crash course of how to run the household when I'm gone. Because they are new in this town, they don't know anything about where are the grocery shops or emergency medicine shops. Everything had to be uh, handed over to them in a very short time. So anyhow, Sunday passed, and on Monday morning, 25th, my OT was scheduled on 11:30 a.m. and I was asked to report on 7 a.m. So we all woke up at 5. We took a shower and I left for the hospital to get admitted with my mom and my husband. Since we had a lot of time in hand, my father decided to come a little late with some food and all, and he would be there by 10:30. So that was the plan initially, and we reached on time. The paperwork were done, the pre-procedures were done on me. I was prepped for the OT, and then I was taken upstairs to the OT room, and I was kept in the induction room, one of the induction rooms. So induction room is basically a room where they keep you before and after an OT. Before an OT, the final preparations are done there. So I was kept there. Everything was done. I was completely ready, and I had a lot of time, so I was asked to relax. And yeah, it was like 10ish. Uh, since there was a lot of time in hand, my mom and my husband decided to go upstairs to the cafeteria to get themselves a cup of coffee. So now my phone was also in my mom's purse. So they go upstairs and I lay there thinking, contemplating. Now there comes the second twist. An intern nurse comes and asks me, hey, can we go to the OT? Uh, all the OTs seem to be available, and the doctor is also early. So we can go now, right? Let's go. That was very abrupt for me, and this should not have come to me directly. Instead, she should have gone to the patient party and they would come to me and we would have a calm discussion, because it's a very big decision to take. Uh, because nothing was going according to plan. Uh, I said that nobody's around me. Call my mother and my husband, they're upstairs. I don't have my phone with me. So they call them somehow and they come rushing in just in time to wave me bye and wish me good luck. And I was taken to the OT. My father had not arrived yet. My mother-in-law had not arrived yet. So this triggered me more. And even though I was smiling while waving them goodbye, I was scared to death. I was thinking inside, are these bad signs? Why is nothing happening according to plan? The delivery date got preponed. The growth has stopped. Now the time is also getting preponed. My family is not here yet. All this thing starts happening inside me and I'm literally screaming inside. Now, as you know that if you panic, you worsen the situation. So that same thing happened with me. My blood pressure shoot up to a record high while I was being given the anesthesia, and my pulse rate starts dropping. Meanwhile, the operation was happening. My doctor was an expert. She was very smoothly doing everything here, but my condition starts worsening. My blood pressure rises up, and the anesthetist gave some drug in the channel to control that. Now, this medicine doesn't suit me, and I probably had some drug allergy or something. It completely did the reverse effect. I start screaming that my head hurts terribly. I'm not feeling okay. Do something. Then I hear them shouting amongst themselves, take it down, it's not suiting her, take it out immediately. It was almost like a movie scene, scary one. Then out of nowhere my baby comes out. She shows me my daughter. My daughter is screaming. I'm crying out aloud. Thousands of emotions are gushing in. It was a miraculous moment to see her. Everything, I forgot about everything else. They take her aside to clean the baby. And meanwhile, my doctor was sealing me up. She finished the job in hardly 8 to 10 minutes. She was an expert, very smooth OT she did. And then I was taken to the recovery room. Now, the recovery room is inside the OT itself. Just beside the main action is happening, there's a space, there's a recovery room. Once the mother recovers completely, then the mother and the baby is taken out of the operation theatre and maybe kept some time in the induction room if required again, and then taken to the room, taken to the designated room downstairs. So I was also taken to the recovery room. There were other mothers waiting there, but my condition doesn't get better. Instead of recovering, it worsens. My pulse rate drops. Oxygen saturation was in 85. Pulse rate was, I think, 50-55 something. Blood pressure was also high, and I was shaking like a leaf. They were almost losing me. They can't, but my anesthetist, on-call doctors, and a few nurses were surrounding my bed, and I did not know when 5 to 6 hours just went like that. Other mothers were coming to the recovery room, going outside in front of me. I was vaguely seeing things, and I was again passing out, again seeing things. I did not know that 6 hours had passed. To me, it was like I'm here for an hour or so. But but my family outside, they were freaking out. My mother started crying. What have you done to my child? Why is she not coming out? All the other moms are coming out fit and fine. What is happening to her? Show us. But there were some communication gaps, and uh, it was a very bad situation right then. But my hospital was right there. The entire crew was there. The entire staff was there. The team was trying their best. Yeah, I almost faced death and then came back. The best thing that the hospital staff did was they brought my baby in that condition, put me to my breast, and did the feeding. I was shaking like a leaf. I could not hold her as well. I was there was oxygen masks, nebulizers, what not injected in me. I was shaking like a leaf, but they held my baby to my breast, and they did the first two feedings inside that recovery room to avoid formula milk or anything else. They did it. That's why I had a very easy latching process when I started feeding, because the initial feeds were done by them, even in that condition. So almost after 6 hours, coming under my family's pressure, they took me out of the recovery room. But they did not shift me to my room downstairs. Instead, they kept me in the induction room right beside the OT, because I was too vulnerable, and the moment anything happens, I had to be taken back immediately. Uh, so guess what? I had to spend the entire night, in that induction room, under very strict monitoring. So that night was the toughest night in my entire life, also for my husband, my family. But I will not go into the detail of that night in this video. It's very personal and very tough and very, I don't want to remember it. The next day afternoon, my condition somewhat stabilized and we were taken downstairs to my room. In all this chaos, my only hope was my baby daughter, who was physically fit and doing an amazing job on the first night. She was taking her feeds regularly and coping up with the outside world. That was the only hope for me. Breastfeeding in the first 3-4 nights was the hugest challenge, with extreme physical weakness, pain in the stitches, tremendous back pain because of the anesthesia, sore swollen breasts. Feeding every 2 hours was a huge challenge, but thanks to my husband, we did it, and thanks to me also for keeping up the hope. The doctors were encouraging me. My lactation therapist encouraged me and motivated me, and they said I was doing an amazing job. My daughter was doing an amazing job. So yeah, now I'll come to the moral of the story. Now coming to the moral of the story, rather what went wrong exactly. So that if I have to do all this again, I will not repeat some things, or I will keep certain things in mind. And or for all you future mothers, I would like to share my experience. So the first person I would like to blame is myself. Uh, we all mothers have to keep in mind that the birthing process is not a choreographed one. Anything can happen. Things might get preponed, postponed, or unexpected turns might be there. And even if the entire pregnancy is smooth, that doesn't mean that the ending will be as well. Even if something goes unplanned, there's nothing to freak out, and you have to keep your trust in your doctor, keep your calm, and roll with the new plan. So, keeping calm and talking it out, discuss with your doctor that I am scared. Help me understand this process. If you keep quiet, keep smiling, but inside you are terrified, it will not do you any good. So that was my fault. But I would not blame me as such, because I was there alone in that city with no relatives. My mother and father were not there. We were doing everything all by ourselves. This added to a lot of stress. Uh, and so this I could not handle the changes at the last moment. I lost control. So, so other than that, the next person who is responsible for this was my anesthetist, unfortunately. Now, anesthesia is way more important and vital than the operation itself. One wrong step in anesthesia can be fatal. It can land you in very big trouble. So, there has to be a thorough session with the anesthetist before the operation. In my case, there was a lot of rush during that time. Ganesh Puja was going on at that period, and there was some climate depression. There were torrential downpours for consecutively 3-4 days, from 24th to almost 27th. Huge rainfall, roads were blocked, traffics, patients coming in like crazy. So there was a ambience of rush in the hospital itself, and doctors are also under tremendous pressure. Sometimes they're understaffed. I understand this because I come from a medical background. My parents have served in this field. My father is still doing it. So I understand. But since it's a very big operation, C-section is one of the top 5 major operations. So the anesthetist should have kept this in mind, and instead she hardly gave me 3 to 4 minutes before the OT was scheduled, and trusted in the oral information that I had given instead of going through the medical records and files thoroughly, minutely. Uh, for example, because many times a patient is not aware of all the medical conditions that he or she is having. We are laymen, we are not doctors. So, for example, I did not know, I was not aware of the fact that I had bradycardia. That's a condition where your heart rate drops. But my ECG report would have given her some hint if she had taken some time to study the file properly. So that was not done. In fact, on the day of OT, I had some lung infection going on that could have been easily detected by a chest X-ray, and so drug tests for allergies could have been done. These things, if were taken care prior to the OT, could have saved me from this. Uh, so, since we are spending a huge amount of money, we are going to the topmost hospital for the best care. We didn't expect this kind of carelessness on this anesthesia part. However, things happen, and in these cases, it happens frequently. So, what has happened had happened. Uh, my suggestion for everyone would be: A, you can't afford to freak out, you have to keep your calm from inside. B, as much importance you give to the uh, birthing process, give equal or more importance to the anesthesia process. Discuss everything beforehand. Report any kind of medical conditions you had, even from childhood. Try note it down prior, way before this 9 month, and keep it handy so that when you have an appointment with the anesthetist doctor, you can discuss everything. I was not prepared for this. I did not have so much idea about anesthesia. So I was just saying, no, I don't. I had a migraine problem. I had, you know, I forgot to mention that one time I had an asthma attack as well uh, during my childhood, because it was so too way back, and I did not even remember it at that moment. And sudden planning of C-section, it just skipped me. Uh, so yeah, I mean, you have to report everything. Everything is vital in anesthesia. They would cross check, even if your parents have some history, you have to report it to them. I did not remember that my mother has chronic asthma, so which this caused me trouble later. So keep this in preparation, what exactly you want to tell, and report to the anesthetist. Not only that, keep an eye whether the team is looking through your file thoroughly, because sometimes you're not aware of some things that is happening to you recently. It is not detected yet, you don't know. They can detect it from the reports. They do multiple of tests these days. Thousands and thousands of money you have to spend for everything. They never rely on clinical checkups these days. For every small thing, they would send you for tests, scans, everything. So my file was this much thick, but sadly, it did not help me. They did not spend time to read that thick file. So make sure they read it. Make sure you discuss everything. And yeah, that's it. So it doesn't mean that it will happen with everyone. It is just my experience. So it was a very scary night for us, but adventure taught me many things. Those kind of situation puts you in perspective. And of course, I forgot everything when my baby was okay. So yeah, it's a feeling that I cannot describe in words. And by God's grace, everything went fine finally. And here we are, almost reaching the 2 months milestone on 25th of November. So I hope this helps for people out there. With this, I end today's video, and I thank everyone for watching. I'll bring informative videos like this in future. So yeah, keep watching my channel. Please subscribe and do share it with your friends. Bye.